Hello, I'm Ross Jordan, an Automation Solutions Manager at Northeast Electrical Distributors, and this is an automation and software product update for January 2017. In this update, I'm going to cover Studio 5000 Logix Designer version 30, CompactLogix 5370, and CompactLogix 5380 and 5480. So here's the Studio 5000 version 30 release summary. The big news is Windows 10 support. It also supports Server 2016. Studio 5000 has a simplified installation now. There's new controllers that are being introduced in the ControlLogix and CompactLogix family, the 5580 and 5380 family. And there's continued support for the previous generation 5570 ControlLogix and 5370 CompactLogix controllers. There's a string to literal binary comparison now available. Used to be you would have to create two string tags, and now you can just type in the text and compare it to a string. There is license-based content protection. Allows you to encrypt portions of your program. It also allows you to create a runtime license that is on an SD card and prevents users from running a machine unless the SD card is installed in the controller. Finally, there's a controller-based audit log. It consists of text files and a .dat file to secure them, make it any tampering evident. Here's a summary of the Studio 5000 Logix Designer new hardware support. There's support for new CompactLogix 5380 models that are released. There's futurist support for the CompactLogix 5480, which is due out in Q2 of 2017. And then there is support for SIP safety of PowerFlex 750 drives, sometimes known as safety over Ethernet for safe torque off. And then finally, there's support for Kinetix VPC motors, where there was a little bit of a gap between large servo motors and the MPL servo motors, which you might call medium-sized, and that's only for Kinetix 5700 drives. All right, so Studio 5000 version 30 supports installing and running on Windows 10. It's mainly intended for PCs, laptops, desktops, that kind of thing. There is limited touch support, but it's really not intended for running on a tablet and interfacing with a tablet. One side note, I have seen versions of Studio 5000, or really that's RS Logix 5000 version 20.4. It will run on Windows 10. In general, what you have to do is update Activation Manager. But this is a configuration. It is not supported by Rockwell. You cannot call in for help with installation or programming issues if you have something prior to version 30 running on Windows 10. So Studio 5000 version 30 has installation enhancements. The install now does not have any choices or no unnecessary clicking in order to install a software. The end user license agreement is one check for all of the licenses. There is now a default products and options that are installed when you go to install software. The default language is English, but you can change that. And there are no other screens except for progress and completeness, unlike some of the other versions. Their customized install is still available, so you can go and choose your language, choose your products, and choose where you want it to be installed. Just to cover, it's old news, but in case you weren't aware, there's a new series of CompactLogix, the 5370 series of controllers with integrated safety. They started becoming available in version 28. It allows you to do standard and safety control up to SIL 3 PLE Category 4 safety, dependent upon your design. It gives you one software development environment for standard and safety, and it's one network for standard and safety control. All of the safety controllers are motion enabled, and depending on the model, can control up to 16 axes of motion over Ethernet IP. They provide safe torque-off support for the PowerFlex 527, the Kinetics 5500, the Kinetics 5700, and the PowerFlex 750 drives over Ethernet IP using SIP safety. And then for the Kinetics servos, the K5500s and 5700s, there's an advanced tuning feature called Load Observer and a tracking notch filter that are available. This basically gets rid of the old auto tune. You check a box, there is no tuning required. All you need to do is commission the drive, make sure that it runs the right direction. Other than that, you do not have to do any auto tune. One caveat is not all models of drives are SIP safety, so you need to be aware of that when you're ordering the drives, that you're ordering something that's with SIP safety if that's what you want to use. Here's a look at the CompactLogix 5370 controller. You can quickly identify it by the red legend on the right side of the controller. It also has some new LEDs on it for safety status, and it has much of the same features as the standard controller. USB port for firmware programming, and SD card. Also has 2 Ethernet ports, just like the standard controller. It's one IP address. And then memory, depending on which model you purchase, you can have up to 3 megabytes of standard memory and 1.5 megabytes of safety memory for programming. The CompactLogix 5380 controller was released the summer of 2016. It's a high-performance controller. It offers a dual gigabit embedded Ethernet port, and that's configurable for 1 or 2 IP addresses. In general, it executes code 10 times faster or more than the 5370 series of controllers, the previous generation. And it no longer requires you to save 20% of user memory for system overhead. You can now use up to 100% of the memory available for the program. Communications, there's no longer a system overhead time slice. It runs on a separate core, and it'll support up to 32 axes of motion. You need the motion enabled controller for that, and that with a 0.5 millisecond update rate as a possibility. Also for digital I/O, there's a 0.5 millisecond digital screw-to-screw performance. So if you turned an output on and read the input, that would take about half a millisecond. And there's a 4-segment display added to this CompactLogix controller for enhanced diagnostics. It gives you things like program name and IP address. One thing worth noting is that the power terminals are sold separately, and that's because you can get either spring or screw clamp terminals. So here's a little closer look at what the 5380 controller looks like. Worth noting, catalog numbers right on the front of the unit. It's a nice improvement over some of the previous generation products. It's got a 4-segment scrolling display. The biggest benefit of that is it displays the IP address if it's assigned and the name of the PLC program. It's also got a USB port. It's programming only. Not going to be able to use that for printers or barcode scanners or anything like that. And then on the bottom are the 2 Ethernet ports, and you can configure them for either one IP address for a device level ring or 2 separate IP addresses if you want one port to go up to a LAN and the other one to be the local private network. So along with the new 5580 and 5380 controllers, there's a new I/O platform that goes with them. It is not backwards compatible. You cannot use this with 5370 or 5570 controllers or earlier. It's only for the 5380 and 5580 controllers. It's a smaller footprint than our existing compact I/O. It's about, I think, 60% of the size. Wiring is much better. It's a removable terminal block on the front. The terminals actually line up with the indicators for your inputs and outputs. Makes it easier to diagnose and troubleshoot. And it's extremely fast. It's an order of magnitude faster than the previous products. And for example, digital input to a 5380 controller and back out to a digital output takes about half a millisecond. There is a new CompactLogix 5480 controller. Estimated release is Q2 2017. This is going to be the first controller that actually offers a Windows 10 operating system itself. So this is a 4-core chip, and one of the cores will run Windows 10. Along with Windows 10, or I should say on the Windows 10 side of it, it'll have 2 USB ports for things like a keyboard and a mouse. If you need more than that, you'll have to add a USB hub. It has a DisplayPort output to run to your operator interface screen. It has its own dedicated Ethernet port. And in the future, you're going to be able to run Logix Designer on this. There's a future release in Q4 estimated to run Linux operating systems so that you can run Logix Designer on it. But with its release in Windows 10, you're going to be able to run FactoryTalk View Machine Edition on the Windows 10 OS. You could even load development software on this as well. So that's going to save space in a panel. It's going to simplify what your customer needs to buy. And all you need to do is add a screen for your HMI. On the other part of this, there's the logic controller, and that runs on 2 cores of that 4-core chip. And one of the cores is dedicated for communications. The other core is dedicated to execute the program. And there are 2 more Ethernet ports on this controller, and they are for the Logix side of it, and can be set up for 1 IP address if you want to do a device level ring, or you can configure it for 2 IP addresses if you need to go up to a separate supervisory network. If you're interested in more information, you can reach me, Ross Jordan. I'm one of the Automation Solutions Managers at Northeast Electrical Distributors. Thank you.